Da 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 dum 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 da dum da 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 dum 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 da dum da da dum 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 dum. Good evening. Welcome to the 10 o'clock Bruise. The condition's human. What are you going to do? Tonight, we confused humans will be reviewing the latest news of all the useless, abusive and occasionally lucid choices chosen by humans when humans choose to do the crazy things that humans do while suffering from the human condition. Our schizophrenic Africa correspondent, Dikembe van de Buurta, reports from Lagos.
Nothing I can say can gloss over this. In Africa, things are turning to shit.
But you must remember, this is a tremendously complex business, and many foreign commentators have developed a terrible oversimplification of this. Yes, past colonial Africa is cursed by poverty, starvation, corruption and war.
But all of these things were going on in Africa before.
All I'm saying is that the problem is deeper than just the legacy of colonization and institutionalized racism.
The problem is in the hearts and minds of the people as much as the geopolitical situation.
Thank you, Dikembe. Worrying news there from the cradle of hominid migration. You're watching the 10 o'clock Bruise. The condition's human. What are you going to do? Our Middle Eastern correspondent, Zebediah Morfire Cumberbatch, reports from Palestine.
Yes, greetings, brethren and sistren. Sources suggest that the political and military powers are pretty fucking far from United Nations. Seek to dictate to the oil and heroin-rich nations of Islam through Machiavellian legislation, lobbied by multinational corporation, enforced by CIA operation, and leveraged by Israeli-Palestinian conflict negotiation procrastination. Meanwhile, some of Allah, Mullah, and Ayatollah seek a return to the days of female slavery by sanctioning pedophilia enabling arranged marriages daily alongside head choppings and honor killings and school bus bombings in reaction to Israel's cuckoo's egg terrorism of is you is or is you ain't belonging. The Holy Land, very few rights, creating more and more wrong. Zebediah, Morfire, Cumberbatch, 10 o'clock Bruise, West Bank.
In other news from the Middle East, a British soldier blown to bits in Basra by a baby-bound booby trap loves playing soldier so much he can't wait to get patched up and go back. And in Iraq, a World Bank executive and loving father of three sociopath is caught carrying counterfeit corporate reconstruction economic debt traps. And in Afghanistan, the Taliban have now institutionalized long-bearded, Ramadan syncopated date rape attacks. You're watching the 10 o'clock Bruise. The condition's human. What are you going to do? Terrible reports there of more human cruelty and stupidity from the cradle of Western civilization. Here to tell us what's happening at home, Timothy, Oxford, Cambridge.
Well, Paradox, the big news here, of course, is the viral voodoo voting cult of ritual public humiliation that makes the X Factor and Strictly Come Dancing such gripping entertainment. Just what the nation needs to keep its mind off its mortgage payments.
Indeed. How lucky we are to have Simon Cowell leading this great nation. But tell me, Timothy, any news of anarchy in the UK?
Well, today in Erith, a fat, lazy, binge-drinking, asbo-dodging chav happy-slapped her way onto YouTube. And in Hackney, a masked gang of hoodies clashed in a stab-dem-man-dem UK rap, grime, garage, drum and bass dancehall fusion. And in pretension Central Hoxton, there's been another outbreak of vanity-driven, tediously superficial narcissism amongst affluent, middle-class, up-their-own-arse, smart-ass art students. But reports suggest that super-rich, my-wags-a-bitch, spit-roast-loving professional footballers are disappearing up their own arse faster than Heat magazine-reading, celebrity-obsessed reality TV phone-in callers. But unfortunately, the countercultural, postmodern, alternative conspiracy hippie party have stated on their Facebook pages that they're still attempting to solve the problem at the same level of awareness at which it was created.
That report from Timothy, Oxford, Cambridge. You're watching the 10 o'clock Bruise. The condition's human. What are you going to do? I wonder if the new world has a solution to our old world situation. Randy, Alabama III reports from the country with the world's highest prison population.
Now, if a civilized society is judged by how well it treats the least of its people, then the United States of America is a civilization without equal. You see, we take our white trash and our niggers, and I'll be damned if we don't house them, clothe them, feed them. Lord Jesus, we even preach to them. And it costs us hundreds of millions of dollars to run all these prisons we need to keep them in. You see, the United States of America is the world's largest consumer of drugs, junk food, pornography, and semi-automatic weapons. Hell, our fundamentalist religious elite are looking forward to Armageddon. Those motherfuckers reckon they're the only motherfuckers that's even going to heaven. But best of all, we have American television and the global irrelevance of the Hollywood metavision and its superstructure, the self-defeating fallacy of free market capitalism, which protects and serves the land of the free and the home of the brave. The United States of acute socioeconomic division built on the backs of slaves.
Indeed. But Randy, surely our paradoxical American addiction merely reflects the deeper contradiction at the heart of the human condition. Doesn't our absurd, death-denying death wish and habitual self-destructive self-delusion merely symbolize the conundrum that defines the entire sweep of our cultural evolution?
Hell no!
Thank you, Randy. You're watching the 10 o'clock Bruise. The condition's human. What are you going to do?
Da-dam-dum, da-dam-dum, dum, 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 dum.
I'm joined now by satellite by Professor Roderick Dogma, a selfish gene advocate and chairman of the Royal Society of Atheists. Professor Dogma, what does science have to say about the human condition?
Well, first we have to jolly well get rid of the ridiculous God delusion. For God's sake, science has proven there's no need for God because God's job could have been accomplished solely by the process of evolution. All these primitive fools who believe in a higher power are just confused. We simply must stop teaching our children primitive superstitions which contradict scientific truth. Belief without supporting evidence is blind faith, and it makes me hit the roof. We must base our lives on proof. And when it comes to proof, science rules the roost.
Well, yes, it does, Professor Dogma, when you're referring to the world of physical matter. But in the psychological world of human experience, surely the materialist mould is shattered.
No, do try to keep up. Thoughts and feelings are merely epiphenomena. Only the physical body is real. Consciousness is just neurons firing in the brain, as is everything we think, do, and feel.
Yes, with respect, Professor Dogma, aren't you guilty of confusing the facts with your own opinion, which is rather disingenuous given your claim to know truth's true dominion? Yes, science is the gold standard when it comes to measuring and manipulating physical reality, but the multiple dimensions of a human being are a complex, holistic plurality. So when the question is, how are we to live? Or how can we fulfill our potential? Scientific truth is superseded by truths that are paradoxical and existential. I suggest, Professor Dogma, that if somebody's delusional belief in God nevertheless helps them to be a kinder, more loving and productive and collaborative person, then your arrogant denunciation of faith per se begins to look like bigoted, narrow-minded aversion. I put it to you, Professor Dogma, that your fundamentalist belief in atheism is not so different from that of a fundamentalist Muslim or Christian. I'm sorry, Professor Dogma, but running out of time and I have to say goodbye. It seems there's more to the human condition than can be seen with a scientific eye. You're watching the 10 o'clock Bruise. The condition's human. What are you going to do?
Da-dam-dum, da-dam-dum, dum, 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 dum.
Finally tonight I'm joined by non-dual philosopher poet and Rasta Zen master Jar Roots Kobayashi. Master Kobayashi, what does Zen have to say about the human condition? Ah yes, the sound of silence. That is very Zen. Indeed. The Tao that can be spoken is not the true Tao. That is very spiritually authentic, but it's not much fucking good for those of us who just don't fucking get it. Oh. What the f... Ow, why'd you do that, Master? That really hurt. Oh, I get it. Life is suffering. Everybody suffers. But some don't suffer their suffering. They use it instead. They use it to learn and to grow. They use it to love and to inspire. And they use it to serve. Thank you for that kick up the arse, Master. You've been watching the 10 o'clock Bruise. If you're suffering from the human condition, we recommend you find a use. Because with all the suffering in the world, maybe that's the least we can do. Good night.
Da 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 dum 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 da dum da 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 dum 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 da dum da dum 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 dum.